conectando con nuestra comunidad. Esto es ¿Qué pasa Boston?
Buenos dias, Boston. I'm super excited today because we have a guest that he doesn't even have an idea where I'm going to start with my conversation. Okay. This guest of mine has a very popular last name, but that last name I associated with completely different situations and moments than most people. When you hear the name of Kraft, you think of Patriots, and you think of the NFL and Gillette Stadium. But when I think of Kraft, I think of Mashpee, Cape Cod, ribs, and Scooby-Doo. And I'm going to tell you why. People, you have to understand that when I came into the United States from Mexico, I arrived into a family as a nanny. And I was actually babysitting for Andrew Tippett. And that was my introduction to the Patriots. What that means is that every summer we used to go to Cape Cod and spend time in Mashpee. And I used to spend some time at your summer home with your family, Myra, your mom, your belated mom, and your dad. And in one of those reunions, I met somebody that was talking about a dog and how they wanted to make a movie. And then that movie was going to be with these real people. And I kept thinking, am I hearing correctly? And when I heard, it was like, wait a second, that's a cartoon, that's Scooby-Doo. So every time that I think of Kraft is because I went to Cape Cod, to your family's home, and I met the director and executive producer of Scooby-Doo.
You never know who you'll meet down the Cape, right?
Right.
Exactly.
So with that introduction, I want to welcome our dear friend, Josh Kraft. Welcome.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. So, Josh, the first question I ask all of our guests here at Que Pasa Boston is, who is Josh Kraft?
All right. Josh Kraft is someone that spent 35 years working in the neighborhoods and communities of Boston, from Mattapan to East Boston to Charlestown and everywhere in between, doing community work, working with people. Most of those 35 years were with Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston, where for the last 12 years of those 30 years, I was the president and CEO. And I started as an outreach worker, working in public housing developments with kids in South Boston.
You know, it's funny that you say that the Boys and Girls Club, obviously that's a major part of your career. Mm-hmm. You were the CEO for almost 18 years?
12 years.
12 years. They're coming in. That we're going to do a full fun activity here at iHeartMedia. We're going to show them what the studios are all about. And to me, it's very deep in my heart because some of the most amazing people that I've met come from Boys and Girls Club. How do you feel about the stories that actually have been impacted because of your leadership?
Well, what I love about the Boys and Girls Club, and that's any Boys and Girls Club, but we'll focus here in Boston. And actually, I'll focus on the Charlestown Club. Because what I always loved about the clubs is it was a story of America. Two young people could walk in that building with different backgrounds, socioeconomic, ethnic, religious, whatever it be, and have access to the same equal access to opportunities in the building. And why I mentioned Charlestown, it was such a powerful thing when you would go up there, let's say around the holidays, and during a holiday party, you'd see two kids decorating cookies, right? One of those kids would be from the Bunker Hill housing development, the largest housing development in New England. And a kid next to him would be from a beautiful townhouse in Monument Square, probably $4 or $5 million townhouse that was paid for in cash. But that's the essence of Boys and Girls Club. That's the essence of opportunity, and that's the essence of America, and what also makes the city of Boston great.
As a Bostonian, and from my perspective, obviously, coming from one of the major cities in the world, Mexico City, coming into Boston and learning the New England way of doing things, how was it for you to grow up in New England?
Well, listen, I love being a New Englander
Hmm.
and the heartbeat of New England, the heartbeat of our entire region, economically, entertainment wise, for everything, commerce, is Boston. So I'm a proud New Englander and I'm a proud Bostonian. I love the city of Boston.
But how was it to grow up with your family? Like,
Oh,
were you going skiing? Were you in
oh,
the summer home? It's just more about like, how was Josh Kraft as a little kid
you know,
growing
we
up?
love Boston sports. We were going to Patriots
Of
games,
course.
sitting on the metal benches way back in the 70s and 80s. Loved the Celtics, so we were a sports family. But my mother, and I also know it's Women's History Month, and we can talk about that, but it wasn't just the sports. My mother made sure we went to the Museum of Fine Arts, made sure we went to the opera, made sure we went to theater, made sure in the summertime we read as many books as possible
All things that you can do in this one city.
in the great city of Boston. Yeah,
Right.
thank you. Or
Yeah.
in New England, in the region,
that's
you
true.
asked New England, but of
Yes.
course in the city of Boston. The opera, I've been to the Opera House, this BSO many times. My mother was a stickler for that.
And with your brothers and sisters, how was it to be? Were you the middle child?
Yeah, there's two boys ahead of me and one younger. So I'm number three, sort of in the
How
middle.
was that?
It was great. I love my brothers, and like any family, you know, we have our squabbles, but in the end, we have each other's backs, and that's what's most important.
That's so funny because when I was growing up, I have one sister, and when we used to fight, my mom would like have us one in one room and another one in another room. You're not allowed to talk anymore. So now figure it out. And then is when I started to realize that you cannot live alone. You need family, you need community. And when I moved to Boston, even though my family stayed in Mexico, I built my own family here. And I've been so welcomed and so heartily loved by a lot of people uh, that it just impacted my entire career, my entire livelihood, everything. What do you feel when you are now running for mayor and you decide to be part of that community that is going to welcome other family members or create these families and organizations and community? How is that important to you? Is that very important, or is that something that you're considering also building, like a stronger community within Boston?
Yeah, Gabrielle. So I'm, as I mentioned, I've done 35 years in the neighborhoods of Boston doing community work. And to me, I look at the mayor of Boston as the ultimate community work job because it's about all those things you just mentioned, bringing people together, supporting nonprofits, supporting businesses, supporting communities, supporting new immigrants to the city, and creating a complete diagram,
Ecosystem,
yeah, of different entities all coming together for one thing to make Boston great.
And it is interesting because I've had the blessing of traveling around the world, and I've seen many major cities. And every time that people ask me, why have you been in Boston for 25 years? How come you haven't moved? Opportunities I've been to, Middle East, Dubai, you name it, Brazil, and I would never ever leave Boston because I feel that we have it all. We have the young energy from students. You have the best universities in the world. You have the best nonprofit organizations that are coming from here. Best medicine. What is your love for Boston besides the community and the city? What makes you say like, I'm a Bostonian, I feel very proud?
I think what makes me most proud to be a Bostonian is the honesty and the directness of people in this city.
Especially when you drive.
Yeah, definitely when you drive. No one's ever going to pull any punches,
Yeah.
and everyone's going to tell you how they feel without hesitation. And the great thing is, even if they tell you how they feel and it's a disagreement, they're still going to listen to you and hear you out. But that's what makes Boston unique and such a great place.
And one thing we have in common, you and I, we both went to school. Of course, you went to Harvard University. I was in Mexico City, but we went to school for education. I love being a teacher, and I don't do teaching, but in some way or shape or form, I'm actually educating the audience, educating consumers. What got you into education? Why being a teacher?
Well, when I left, I went to a 4-year university, and then I spent a few years working in South Boston at the Boys and Girls Club outreach with kids, and I wanted to, continue working with kids and understand how to connect and best motivate them. So I went to Harvard at School of Education to learn more about education, educational theory, how to connect with kids. But ironically enough, the greatest experience that I had at Harvard was the spring term. I interned for that whole term at a methadone clinic in Somerville,
No way.
which was really powerful, really eye-opening, and that really set me on the path to commit to community work all the time.
So you saw the consequences right in
Right,
front
and this
of your
was in the
eyes.
early 90s, so.
Wow. When you see that, and now you're thinking of the Meth Mile, right? And
Oh, yeah,
what's happening in Boston. How can we as a community, because we are always trying to blame and put the power in just one person, right? Whether it is the mayor or the governor. But how can we as a community help you take care of our city?
Take specifically Mass and Cass,
Yes,
or
well, however it is, but
Right.
I just with all these drug addictions, or maybe the homeless, or maybe it's with immigration. But how can we help? Because it's very easy to point fingers and just complain. But I am trying with our audience and our policies here, and obviously with the community. Let's be a word of action too, right? How
Right,
can we help Josh
definitely.
Kraft?
And I'll start first with Mass and Cass, how I look at it. I think there's two things we need to do. There's a lot of, or not a lot, but a good number of, I would say, people doing the wrong thing, preying on vulnerable people there, selling drugs and selling sex. And we need to get them out, with police, with law enforcement. And then we have to go in and support those most vulnerable and find pathways for them to get better. So that's how I look. Those are the two paths for Mass and Cass. And then big picture with everyone, it might be cliche, but everybody's got to come together and
Yes.
understand each other, which also means disagree with one another, but still be respectful of one another. When we can do that, we can all move forward.
I love that you're talking about unity and respect, and in an political environment that we're living nowadays, that's kind of like the essence of divide and conquer, right?
Yes.
And in this case, we want to unify, right? We want to unite our people. What are some of the actions that you're trying to take in your new position, running as mayor, to unify the community?
Well, I'd say the first thing that we need to do as a city is be more fiscally responsible. Over the last 3 years, the city budget, has grown an unprecedented 20%. 20%. Unprecedented. And I don't feel like the mayor or the current administration is really looking hard at places to save money. I mean, they've gone on record saying there's not anything to be cut from here. But I can tell you, start with the bloated payroll. From 2023 to 2024, the average Boston City Hall job increased by 25%, from $74,000 to over $100,000. And that, to me, when you say you don't have a penny to cut, it's not only unbelievable, I think it's not fair to the citizens of Boston who, in their own lives, are cutting because of the high cost of living, the high cost of heat, the high cost of food, and trying to save money in their own home. And when they say the city not doing it and their taxes going up, I think it's very frustrating, and I think it's disrespectful to the people of Boston. And I can tell you, as mayor, we will be fiscally responsible, and we will look in our own backyard at places to save money for the citizens of Boston.
One thing that we are doing very much so, especially here in my personal role as a leader, I want our Hispanic community specifically to be more financial responsible. So more financially responsible, because we're taught to think smaller. We're taught to receive a lower salary because we are a minority. We are taught to do it for free sometimes because it's the giving and loving character of our culture. And in this case, I am really trying to create some awareness on how we can also, since we're the largest buying power in the minorities, you're talking about
wow.
$13 trillion buying power.
Wow.
It's impactful. We're
Hugely.
making the world go round. But internally in our households, we don't have that knowledge of how we can also remain and think larger. Okay, I want to be a small business. Yes, but what is the next step? Why not think of an enterprise, right? Why not think of being the next Josh Kraft? And that's what I would love to see. What are you trying to do with the Hispanic community or the minorities that have so much impact in the economic development of the city?
I think one of the biggest things I want to do as mayor is create pathways for just what you said, Gabriela, to create generational wealth for communities of color. And that could be through home buying, that could be through financial literacy, as well as how to invest money, how to save money. Because we need to make sure the next generation and the generation after that of our communities of color, who are all part of our whole Boston community, understand the power of saving and understand the ways that they can increase their savings through generational wealth programs or through home buying, through IRAs and other vehicles.
I love that. And then us as Hispanics, Latinos, pongan atención. You need to do your homework. You need to educate yourself and actually be aware of what the possibilities are so you can take advantage of what the city is doing to improve our community. And being Hispanic brings me to the next topic that it's a passion of mine, and I'm super excited because 2026 is a big year. And if things go the right way, you're talking about running a city that is going to welcome over 3 million visitors from all over the world with the Soccer World Cup. Can you imagine? I mean, like, this is going to be amazing, but the infrastructure is going to be challenging. I'm just being quite honest. I've been to several major events, right?
I get that.
So what do you think we can do also, or how can we help the city and minorities maximize that opportunity and make it profitable also for these businesses that are going to be able to profit from $480 million in 45 days with 7 games at your stadium?
It's crazy. Crazy in a good way.
Yes, it's fantastic.
But I think we need to celebrate and highlight all the different communities that are in Boston and their restaurants, their stores, and their businesses, because there's going to be so many folks coming into the Boston. We need to celebrate the cultural diversity of Boston, figure out a way to do it before people come in so we're ready to go when these 3 million people come into our great city. And that will be a great boon for those businesses, and it'll be a great boon for all the businesses around.
What do you think we should do as a city, like, to help with the traffic? I'm imagining if it's a nightmare right now.
Yeah.
How is it going to be with all these people coming from all these places? Because they're going to be spending, or probably staying all over, possibly Maryland, all the way over here, because there's not going to be space for everyone just in the city.
Right. I'm sure they'll be staying out in out in the suburbs, the hotels on 95.
I'm talking different states.
Different states to come up here.
Yes, because it's a
5
huge,
other New England
yes,
states.
Exactly.
It'll be we said at the beginning, Boston is the economic driver. I guess Boston Foxborough will be the economic driver for New England those 45 days. So I know that there will be great plans to figure it out. I'm sure it'll take a little bit of getting used to and some patience, but I have confidence that it will all be figured out.
Well,
and
we're
more
going to have a
importantly,
lot of
the
patience.
businesses will thrive.
That's my goal.
That's
my
the bet. The
goal
businesses
is,
will thrive, and that's the greatest thing about it.
Let's get that education ready for all these people that
Mm-hmm.
can maximize and capitalize from this opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime. It's an opportunity that is not going to come again until, I don't know, maybe 200 years, because it's every 4 years in different countries. And I'm very, very excited that we are part of such a historic moment. When Josh Kraft comes into Boston, you moved into the North End, correct?
Yeah, I live in the North End, yep.
And you are now filled with this Italian spirit, day in, day out. What is your favorite restaurant? What is your favorite Italian meal when you're in the North End?
Can I say the restaurant? Because
of
I don't want
course.
to. All right.
No, this is
my
about
friend
Boston,
Damien DiPaolo, Carmelina's. It's a great place.
Oh, I love Carmelina's.
And I'm a fan of Cacio e Pepe, the
Yes.
pasta. Yeah, very good. My partner who lives with me, she's Italian. She's a big fan of that too, Michelle.
She's also in the nonprofit field, correct?
Yes, yes.
So why nonprofit? Why did you focus on the nonprofit when you have such a beautiful family with a great business, with an amazing, exciting opportunity to be involved in sports, and then you decide to do it the other way?
Well, that's a great segue into, I know it's Women's History Month, and we're Women's Month, not just, we're celebrating women. So at a young age, we learned from both my parents, but really my mom, about the power of community and what our responsibility to our community was. She always said, your worst day is most people's best day. You need to look out for people, all people, especially those that are marginalized and don't have access to opportunity. And that resonated somewhere in me, and that was my commitment to the work I made, was because of that and because of those teachings of my mother. So,
in Boston, we have one of the best, if not the best in the world, schools for innovation and technology, MIT.
Oh, yeah.
What is your point of view in innovation and maybe making Boston the capital of AI?
I think it's crucial, and one of the things I've been thinking about, and it's so important for our city, is right now our downtown is struggling. There's not the vitality and the vibrancy that it had for so many years because of post-pandemic and work from home. And we need to bring life back to the downtown. We need to reimagine it. And one of the ways, potentially, is to make it a hub or a center for some breakthrough industry, be it AI, medical technology. I don't know. We've got to figure that out. But I'm going to put together a great committee of creative, innovative people to help us figure that out. And that could very well be the path we take.
Josh, when our guests sit in that chair and we're ending our podcast and our show, we always ask them to relate a question for the next guest. So I have a question for you from our previous guest.
Okay.
And they asked, what would be your favorite memory as a child? What's Josh Kraft's best memory as a child?
I have a lot of them, but I would say maybe spending time with our extended family on a Jewish holiday, cousins, aunts, uncles, and so forth. It was always fun. Little intense, as it always is, but it was fun.
I love that. What would be that question that you want to ask our next guest?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So you know it, people. Now we have to think about where do we see our own selves in 5 years. We're going to be asking that question to our next guest. Josh, it's been such a pleasure having you in Que Pasa Boston.
It's been an honor to be here in Que Pasa Boston, and I appreciate the opportunity and your time as well.
We wish you all the best, and
Thank
we'll
you.
be following your career. And ya lo sabe, mi gente, we are here in Que Pasa Boston every Sunday at 6 a.m. for Rumba, 6:30 Jam 94.5, and you can download the iHeart app. And don't forget to pre-select Que Pasa Boston as your favorite podcast. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Esto fue Que Pasa Boston con Gabriela Salas. Síguenos para descubrir más historias de nuestra comunidad.